Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Dieter Borman, the Central Plateau Cleanup Company. And I just want to say this meeting is being recorded. So for everyone who was with us for last week's meeting, apologies again. We obviously had some technical difficulties. So we're going to try this again. We're excited to be here and great to see everybody in person. We have a hybrid format tonight, so not only do we have folks here at the Richland Public Library, but greetings as well to our participants online. So a quick in-room safety check before we get started. Just please note the exits nearest you in the unlikely event we're gonna have to leave the premises. So fastest exit is right out here at the door to your left. There's an exit here. You can move those shades if needed. And if you need restroom facilities, down the hall and to your right. Any questions about that? All right, well, let's talk about tonight's meeting. This meeting is part of a Resource Conservation and Recovery Act Notice of Intent for the siting, construction, and operation of a proposed contact-handled waste processing, treatment, and storage area at the Hanford site. This facility, which will be constructed at Hanford Central Waste Complex, will play a key role in safely processing transuranic and mixed transuranic waste for shipment off the Hanford site to the waste isolation pilot plant in New Mexico for permanent disposal. Processing and shipping this waste will significantly reduce the amount of transuranic waste stored at Hanford, reducing risk to workers, the public, and the environment, and advancing the overall cleanup mission. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is simply to provide more information about this proposed facility and answer questions. The agencies just want to note that there's no public comment period tied to the notice of intent process. The notice of intent process is not a process that's employed often in Hanford. In fact, the last one was in 2017 when we had one for the waste encapsulation and storage facility capsule storage area. So it's been 8 years since we've had notice of intent public process. And while there is no comment period tied to this particular meeting or this process, there will be additional opportunities for the public to review and comment on the proposed facility during the permit modification process expected to begin this summer. So this is kind of the kickoff meeting for this facility, if you will. So the agenda for the meeting, pretty straightforward. We're going to have a presentation about the facility by the U.S. Department of Energy. And following that, we're going to dedicate the rest of the meeting to Q&A time with our in-person and online audience. Before we get started, I just wanted to quickly introduce our panelists up here tonight. We have Gary Piles, he's the Federal Project Director with the U.S. Department of Energy, and Deb Alexander from the Washington State Department of Ecology. And Ecology is the regulator on this project. Also want to mention Colleen Drinkard is monitoring the chat, so we'll likely hear from her when we get to the Q&A. All right, without further ado, Gary, kick us off.
Okay, thank you. Everybody can hear me. So as they said, my name is Gary Piles. I am with the Hanford Field Office, and I am the Federal Project Director for the Contact Handled Waste Processing Project. Next slide. So first, I'd like to kind of give you a quick overview of the transuranic waste program here at the Hanford site. For those that may not be familiar with the radioactive waste classifications, there's 3 types of radioactive waste under DOE. There's a high-level waste, transuranic waste, and low-level waste. And so what we're talking today is transuranic waste. And what makes the waste transuranic is 3 things. First, it has to be above uranium in the periodic table. It has to have a half-life of 20 years or greater. And once you have it packaged and you characterize it, it has to be over 100 nanocuries per gram concentration. So if you meet those 3 criteria, it's considered transuranic waste, and all transuranic waste is shipped and disposed of at the waste isolation pilot plant down in near Carlsbad, New Mexico. So we're here at the Hanford site. Our goal is to take the transuranic waste, repackage it to make sure that it meets the waste acceptance criteria, and then characterize it to ensure that it is transuranic waste and it meets those criteria. And if that's the case, then we would work with the Carlsbad Field Office then to certify it and then ship it to WIPP for disposal. So what now the mission need here is that Hanford does not have the capability to process small and large contact handle packages containing transuranic waste, mixed transuranic waste, or mixed low-level waste. Now, we have been using Perma-Fix to support this effort to repackage some of our large boxes, and they do treat a lot of our mixed low-level waste. The issue is that Perma-Fix doesn't have the capability to do all of our waste. So we have some large containers that can't be processed at Perma-Fix. We have waste that exceeds their limits, their license limits that needs to be processed. In addition, their shipping rate won't keep, they can't process at a rate needed to sustain the shipping rate that we had planned to do when we start shipping to WIPP at 2 to 3 per week. For these reasons, we need to come up with another option here on the Hanford site. And so we did do an alternatives analysis was performed to look at the different alternatives that will meet the submission needs while ensuring cost efficiency and schedule adherence. I think we did look at using modifying existing facilities to support this effort. There are some challenges when using a facility that's aging kind of beyond its design life and doesn't meet the current standards. We looked at options to continue using Perma-Fix as well as in building a new facility to support this effort. And ultimately, the decision was that we continue to use Perma-Fix as much as technically, economically practical, while also building this facility that will give us the flexibility to do a large range of different containers that can't be done elsewhere. All right, next slide. Again, so our plan is to build this contact handle waste processing facility, again, so that it can repackage transuranic waste, so that we can ship it to New Mexico. Again, in the event that some of the waste, when characterized, is not transuranic and becomes low-level waste, then we also need the capability to treat that mixed low-level waste on site, so that we can dispose of it on site. Excuse me. Again, this facility will support the DWIP cleanup goals and provide the processing and packaging capabilities for contact handle waste containers and the above ground storage at CWC, and those to be recovered from the barrel ground trenches. I think the bottom line here is this facility is really needed to support our effort to make sure that we can meet our TPA agreement milestones and the commitments that we've made to the stakeholders. Next slide. So this picture just kind of shows where we plan to, are proposing to locate this facility. It's within the Central Waste Complex. You can see on the left, it's in the 200 West area. And the picture on the right just kind of shows the Central Waste Complex and where we're at. Next slide. This is a little bit of a better picture, close-up of the Central Waste Complex. As you can see, the place we're proposing to put this facility is highlighted there in the green box. This is kind of a great place to put it because it's already within the bounds of an already existing facility, and so for that reason, we minimize cultural impacts, minimize environmental impacts for building. We're not building this in a greenfield. The other advantage is that this processing facility will be where the waste is being stored, so we'll minimize any issues or concerns associated with transporting this waste to the facility. So as you can see in that picture, there's some boxes there that are currently there. Right now, this area is what we call the outside storage area A. It's where we stored a lot of the large boxes. We have been working again with Perma-Fix to ship a lot of these boxes over to be repackaged and then returned and placed into one of the buildings there at the Central Waste Complex. The idea is that we have a milestone to basically clear that area by the end of FY26, and we're on track to do that. Once that area is cleared, then we'll do a RCRA closure, and then it'll be ready to support this effort to build this Central Waste contact handle waste processing facility. Next slide. So I want to talk just a little bit about the Central Waste Complex area. Of course, right now it's the place where we provide safe and compliant containers for storage for radioactive, dangerous, and mixed waste. All the waste that's disposed there is generated from the Hanford site from different cleanup activities, circular cleanup activities, and then also legacy waste from retrieval from the burial grounds. Again, this waste, just to put in perspective, give you some numbers, there's about 10,000 containers of contact panel waste being stored at the Central Waste Complex. About 60% of that is what we call certifiable waste, meaning that it already is waste containers that meet the waste acceptance criteria and has been characterized, but still needs to have CPC go come in and support the effort to certify and ship. The other 40% are containers that don't currently meet the waste with waste acceptance criteria and needs to be processed. Next slide. So as part of this process, we did do a National Environmental Policy Act screening that was completed back in November. Basically, it concluded that this facility was bounded by the impacts evaluated in tank closure, waste management, environmental impact statement. That, along with the cultural resource review and ecological resource review, it was determined that this project would not have a significant environmental impact to the environment. So for that reason, basically with that evaluation or that screening that we did, it was concluded that no additional reviews or evaluations are required. Next slide. Okay, so we said the primary function for this facility, again, will be to repackage Hanford only generated true and mixed true waste to meet the WIPWAC. We also, secondary function will be to handle the low level waste or mixed level waste of dropouts as a result of a repackaging operation. We'll have to treat those to make sure we meet the land disposal restriction requirements before we can dispose of those on site. The type of operations that would take place here are things like segregation, treatment of liquids, waste stabilization, waste characterization. The big key here is that this is, although this is a new facility, the type of operations that we'll be doing here are pretty common around the complex. They do this at Perma-Fix, they do the Los Alamos, Savannah River, Oak Ridge. And so we've been working with the Carlsbad Field Office and all these other sites that do this type of work as we go through the design for this project to incorporate lessons learned and make sure that we're doing this in a safe and compliant manner. It's protective of the workers. And next slide. So this is the conceptual design. Again, it is a conceptual design, so it could change slightly as we go through the process to do the 60%, 90% design. The key here is if you look at the top, that's kind of the area where our workers would go in, dot and dock their personal protection equipment, and then get into the processing area. We have it at kind of three different processing area. One where we do large boxes, and then two for smaller containers, drums, things like that. The way it's set up, we kind of have a staging area where we would bring in the containers, a prepping area, we would prep the containers to be processed, and then into the processing area. I just want to point out, I don't know if the last meeting, Dwayne Carter had mentioned kind of the negative pressure building where we had these zones, and I just wanted to kind of clarify that a little bit. What the negative pressure does is it kind of draws the air into the building so that it goes from the staging area into the prep area into the processing area, and then it goes through a series of HEPA filters before it's released back outside. The idea here is that it draws the air in so we don't get a contamination release going outside of the facility. And also when we have this negative pressure, when we do the workers are in there actually doing the work, the air is also drawn away from the workers to protect the workers at the time, and pretty much like a fume hood. So, next. So for right now, we have the conceptual design report was completed in the fall of 2024. And as mentioned, the permit application is planned to be submitted this summer. But we still have a lot of work to do. There's different phases. As we go through a project with the DOE, there's several different phases. And so we're still in the conceptual design phase. Although we have the conceptual design report, we're still identifying hazards, looking at accident scenarios. We have project documents we have to put together, such as acquisition strategy, project execution plan, and all that has to be reviewed by an independent group, usually by headquarters, that has to approve that before we can go to the next stage, which would be then doing the final design. After that is then construction and then ultimate operation. So as you can see, we don't plan to have the final designs completed until 2029. Construction activities would be completed and operations start in 2033. So that's that's 8 years from now. So like I said, we're still at the very early stages of this project. And there's a very a tedious process we have to go through to make sure that as we go through this process of new design, we're considering engineering, take credit for engineering barriers, looking at administrative control, making sure that we're doing the best that we can to be protective of the workers and the environment. Next slide. So for this notice of intent, we had to look, we describes basically the location, description of the proposed facility. We talked about compliance with siting standards, taking measures in place to provide protection, the environment, location factors for the protection of man-made and designated areas, description of need for this facility, which we've talked about. So next slide. So a little more information about the proposed location. Again, it's within an existing, the boundary of the CWC. It's not considered an area subject to soil instability or coastal flooding, not within an active fault area or designated as a watershed, not intended to be used as a landfill or to incinerate waste, within the required distance from both the Columbia River and the Hanford property line, and more than 500 feet from a waterland designated habitat, natural area preserves, or bald eagle protection. Next slide. So kind of reiterate some of the points that Dieter had already mentioned. You know, we plan to build this facility within the Central Waste Complex. It does require a RCRA permit modification from the Department, Washington State Department of Ecology, as it is a new dangerous waste management unit subject to state regulations. We did submit a notification to Ecology back in October 2024. And of course, we're required to notify Ecology as well as local communities and the public of the siting of this new dangerous waste management unit that's being considered before we submit the permit modification request. So that's what we're doing here. Next. So again, as mentioned, there is no formal comment period associated with this notice of intent process. The public will have an opportunity to provide comments after we've submitted the permit modification request. And once we start that permit modification process, there'll be a 60-day public comment period where anybody would have a chance to provide comments. And we will have another public meeting during that comment period. Next slide. So if you want more, and I kind of to give a pretty high level view of this facility and what and how we would plan to the type of activities we'd be doing inside the facility. If you want more information, you can go look at the conceptual design report, and there's a link to that report made available to the public. So if you have any questions that we don't answer today, feel free to contact Dana Cowley. She can provide her with the questions, and then she'll work with us to provide a response. We do have a robust, DOE does have a robust tribal program where we do have government-to-government interactions with the tribal nations. They meet very regularly. They have been, my understanding, they have been notified of this NOI. It's the 10th of notice of intent. And of course, if there's any questions or if they want more information, they can contact Kim Bellinger, who is the point of contact for that program. And then also Dana McFadden, she is with Ecology. If you have questions for Ecology, you can contact her. Thanks. So with that, is there any questions?
All right, thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Before we get started, real quick, Deb, do you have any comments from Ecology?
Not at this time, not unless there's questions on the permitting process.
All right, thanks. Okay, well, let's jump to our Q&A. Want to mention, just a reminder, the presentation you just saw is available on the Hanford.gov events calendar. So if you go to today's date on the calendar, there's links for more information, including that presentation. So a few quick ground rules, if you will, before we jump into the Q&A. So for our online participants, if you have any questions, please drop that in the chat. Colleen will read them in the order received. Or if you wish to read your own question, please indicate that as well. And then unless you're asking a question, we ask that you remain muted. We're gonna alternate between questions from in the room here and the audience. We'll ask also that you stick to one question at a time, just makes it easier to track and for our respondents to make sure they're answering fully each question as it comes. We should have plenty of time if folks want to ask multiple questions. We'll just take one at a time. We'll go through everyone who wants to ask a question and then we'll circle back. I think that is it. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll take our first question from here in the room. Yeah.
Hi, this is Mia Burke with Hanford Challenge. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for holding this meeting again. It means a lot to be able to understand everything that's being said and to be able to have a back and forth in this Q&A as well. My first question is in regards to you talked about, I understand the part about true and true mixed waste, but when you're talking about mixed low-level waste, is that what you find, what you come across, that 40% that's already in essential waste complex? Or would that be coming from any other facility at Hanford? Is it unique to the central waste complex or?
No, so mixed waste is basically a low-level waste that has a hazardous component. So it's regulated by both DOE and by ecology. And so mixed waste is generated pretty regularly here on the Hanford site.
But what you'll be packaging, you talked about packaging mixed low-level waste. Where is that coming from?
So it's all coming from the Hanford generator waste. So
all over the site, any facility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Tom City with Oregon Department of Energy. So you mentioned a analysis of alternatives and a historic site. Is that the RAP facility that you're talking about? And how is this facility different than what RAP could do?
yeah, we looked at RAP, heat plant, and there was a whole list of other facilities we looked at. So the difference between RAP is, so RAP was a repackaging facility that could do small containers. So it had glove boxes and allowed us to do 55-gallon drums and I think 85-gallon drums. Unfortunately, we haven't operated that facility since 2011. And so it's been this cold and dark mode. And that facility was built, 30 years ago. So it's kind of beyond its life expectancy. We're seeing a lot of degradation in the roof and things like that. So the type of waste that we have, again, these large boxes can't be done there either. Again, we looked at, well, can we modify it to be able to do the large boxes? And it just wasn't cost effective to do that, so.
All right, Colleen, it looks like we have a question in the chat.
Yeah, I have two people in the queue, Jerry Paulette and James Bearsey, but first, Jerry Paulette. And I don't see your question typed out. So did you want to ask the question to the group, Jerry?
Yes, thank you. Let me start by saying thank you very much for holding a repeat meeting. I can hear you perfectly tonight. So thank you very much for doing this. And I want to thank you for sending me the alternatives analysis. I've got 3 questions. So I'll just start with the first, then we'll cycle back, I hope, to the other 2. You've mentioned a NEPA screening document as well as the alternatives analysis. I was sent the alternatives analysis. Is it now posted for anyone who looked at the public involvement opportunities? And where's this NEPA screening analysis? Because I was unable to find anything like that referenced in the alternatives analysis or in the administrative record.
Well, I can talk to the alternative analysis. So that has been released. It's a publicly releasable document. So yeah, if you have that, then or if you need a copy, we can get you one. For the NEPA screening, I don't know if I have an answer for that, if that's been publicly released or not.
It should be in the administrative record.
It should be in the administrative record.
This is Anne Brago. I'm the Deputy Federal Project Manager for this project, and the NEPA screening form should be in the administrative record. If it's not, let us know. And also we can provide you the contact information for Doug Chapin. He's our one we've been working heavily with to do the screening and perform the NEPA evaluation.
So let me just say, I did an extensive search using keywords in the extended search function in the administrative record and could find no reference to this. And rather than each individual trying to search for something, you ought to just put it in the notice and so everyone can obtain it. And that would be, instead of, I'd like you to send it to me, but it would be best if you sent it to me and posted it to everyone, because we can't consider informed comments without seeing that analysis. And that's my first comment and question.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. We'll make a note of that. We'll take one more online.
Okay, our next question is from James Bearsy, and I'm going to read it. The question is WIP currently fully permitted to accept this waste, both in terms of proposed characterization and in terms of capacity, given that the first waste won't be shipped for at least 10 years and the rest of the DOE complex is currently sending their waste to WIP?
Yeah, so my understanding is that, of course, they're permitted to take all the transuranic waste from the DOE site. We basically, on an annual basis, will inform them of the volumes of true waste that we project to be disposed of, and they have the capability and the capacity to take our waste. As far as the not shipping for 10 years, so Hanford did ship previously. We had a certified program here up until the end of the ARA, which is 2012. We're actually working right now with the Carlsbad field office to put a certified program back in place here at the Hanford site by the end of FY26 and actually start shipping by the end of FY28. So as I mentioned in the presentation, we have about 6,000 containers of contact handled waste that is certifiable. And so that will be, they'll start shipping first. And right now, working with the Carlsbad field office, we're projecting to send 2 a week is what our plan is. So that answers your question.
All right, let's go back to our in-room. Dan?
Hi, my name is Dan Sears. I'm the Advocacy Director with Columbia Riverkeeper, and I want to echo the thanks for you holding this meeting, the redo. It's very much appreciated. It was just really hard to hear, and so it was participated last week. This effort is very noted. I guess my question is follow up on Jerry's, which is normally if there's a categorical exclusion, there's a record of decision some kind or some kind of decision document that goes with that finding of no significant impact. Has that been issued? Was there a decision not to proceed further with analysis? And the reason I ask is given the description of the facility and the necessary studies and design work yet to come, is it an early stage right now to say a CE is the right way to go in terms of NEPA, or does it make sense to get more information in hand before deciding that no environmental analysis is necessary? Because I would caution also that I don't think a permit stands in for NEPA in that process. And so while we're glad there will be an opportunity to comment later, NEPA has specific kind of guidelines that allow us to see the nature of the proposal and the potential impacts. And there's a lot going on in 200 West that we heard about at the HAB meeting today, which was really, really informative. So I want to thank everyone who's putting effort into this. This has been long on the radar. Folks in Manhattan, Oregon Department of Energy is waiting, really supporting this progress to see transuranic waste addressed. And so thank you all for your work.
All right, thanks, Dan. Colleen, let's go back to,
All right,
Well, the question I think is related to whether we do be another need, so. I don't know if there's anyone else that can help answer this question. I know, Jill.
Good evening. My name is Jill Thompson. I'm with the CPC Co contractor company, and I assisted DOE along with Doug Chapin and other folks in our team to complete the NEPA screening. And the envelope within which it was evaluated was the existing tank EIS record of decision. So the analysis that was performed to support that fraud included processing, handling waste in a capacity that is bounding and includes the capacity for the CHWP. So when you have access to the form, I want to say it's about 10 pages of a description of the analysis that was done initially, and then a description of this current project. And it explains how the initial analysis includes the capacities that we're talking about or is bounded by, so. Okay. Okay, okay. I would echo what Amber offered. If there are any questions, I'm sure Doug would be happy to spend time with all of us. It's a part of the discussion. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
thank you, Jill. Let's go back to.
all right. So we do have another first question from this one from Rob Davis. So Rob Davis asks, well, first he says, thanks for the presentation. It was easy to understand. So the question is, and I can read this, Rob, unless you wanted to get on and do it. But the question is, when will the project specify the ASME and other design codes for the building? I am excited for this project, just that this is a long period to build the structure presented. Time is money.
Yeah, so as I said, we're still kind of in that conceptual design, and right now the contractor is working to develop the functional design requirements. We'll list all the different codes requirements that we'll have to design this facility to comply with. And then as we go through this process, we go into the 60% design and the final design. Of course, that functional design criteria will be updated as needed. So that's kind of the process we go through, so. Hopefully that answered your question.
Okay, back to the room.
Yeah, I didn't see any mention of a TruePack facility of packing the trailers. And you said you're gonna start shipping waste to WIP. Where are they gonna do the packing for the trailers, the TruePacks? So what's the plan for that?
I can
Yeah.
answer that one. All right, so my name's Kelly Eber. I'm with the Department of Energy. I'm the Projects and Facilities Division Director. So as part of our TRUE program, we also have planning activities for the TruePack shipping facility. When we first start shipping though, the contractor for Carlsbad actually has a mobile loading unit. And so we'll be able to load those outdoors, and then get the facility online at the appropriate time to support additional shipments.
Are you building a separate facility for that? Because I didn't see it on the design there when you showed the facility that there was anywhere to do TruePack.
Correct, it's not inside of the CHWP facility. Correct.
Okay, any other questions in the room here? Tom?
Yeah, sort of along the same lines, with the loading and also the certification, you know, if we're looking at a, 7-year lead time on getting the buildings built, would it make sense to expand the scope of this building to include certification and packing? So it's, you know, it's getting treated, packed, certified and shipped.
Yeah, so like I said, we're working, well, if you want, we're working on, you know, getting that certification program in place. We have the facilities and the equipment is already on site, the high energy RTR. The other one, the Hank. And so that's already, in within the bounds of the Central Waste Complex, and it's already set up. So we'll just, again, process it and take it right over to that area where they'll certify it, and then into the shipping facility to ship it.
I think we have a couple of repeat questions on the line. Jerry, do you want to ask?
Well, we actually have just got a new first question from Rose.
Okay,
So, but I do have Jerry and James Beersey have second questions as well. But I-
And then back to Jerry.
So Rose, do you want to unmute? Because I didn't see your question in the chat.
I didn't type it in because I'm on a device that's not that easy to
Okay.
do. So I'm seeing a question here with regards to tribal consultation, and I got distracted for a minute, and I don't know if somebody answered that or not, but my question is kind of surrounding that. If I understood right when I was looking at your slides, it said that the Section 106 National Historic Preservation Act review was done in 2012. Is that right? And that there was no historic properties affected? Or did I misread that?
Didn't hear the question. Can you repeat it? Sorry.
So yeah, can you repeat the question, Rose?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out on the slide, on one of your slides where you were showing what's already been done. I thought you made note of the NEPA, but then you also had the National Historic Preservation Act listed, and I saw a date of 2012, and it says no historic properties affected, and it's on one of your slides, and there you go. So what was done in 2012, and was the NHPA done at that same time?
So the 2012 date, that's when the tank closure, waste management, environmental impact statement was completed, and issued.
Okay, so when did the no historic properties affected finding, where did that come from? When was that done?
That was done as part of the cultural resource review that was done to support the NEPA screening that was done last November.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I wanted to make sure that I was trying to remember, and so that answers my question then, because I wanted to make sure that we are looking at current information and not something from 2012, because Yakima Nation has done a lot of work on the Hanford site with regards to cultural places of traditional significance and whatnot. So I wanted to make sure we were looking at a current determination of no historic properties affected. Thank you.
Okay,
All right. So I think if we're moving on to online questions,
take one more.
okay, so well, we don't have any other first questions. So are you ready for second questions?
Yeah, Jerry, you ready for question number 2?
Thank you. As I said, I have 3 questions. My second question, let's ask the question that relates to the budget and analysis there. In the alternatives analysis, it's unclear if the cost of each alternative is in addition to the baseline or separate from the baseline. And if you could clarify that, it would be helpful. And if the cost analyses include any life cycle cost analysis or comparison with contracting for the services.
Okay, so, I don't believe that the cost during the outdoor analysis or in the life of, because we're looking at different options. I think there is a life cycle cost that captures this scope. But it's not tied to the costs that are in the, directly tied to the costs that are in the alternative analysis. And the alternative analysis, I don't recall if it considers life cycle. I think it's just the cost of the facility, but I'd have to go back and look. I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody else. But it does consider the life cycle costs. It does.
Well, I'd appreciate if someone would be able to show me, because all I could see is the cost adds up to the total cost that shows cost per year for the next few years. Well, at that time, since it's been delayed. And was there any analysis, which it doesn't show up in this document, of the cost of going out and contracting for the services?
Yeah, I'd have to go back. We can get back to you on that. But like I said, I don't have cost for constructing and operation, so I think that is our life cycle cost, right? So.
I'm just looking at the same document.
That's it.
I don't know if he's looking at the same document.
And we'll note that question, Jerry.
Okay.
Let's jump back to our in-person audience here. Any more questions, Mia?
Hi, this is Mia Burke again. So when you talk about in your presentation, the like waste stabilization and treatment, are you referring to grouting the waste?
Yeah, typically grouting is typically done for waste stabilization. What was the other one? I'm sorry.
Waste stabilization and treatment.
Yeah, so treatment is usually done through grouting. I think there's other activities you could do, but primarily grouting is the treatment that we do.
So in a foreseeable future, if the waste in the 200 West tanks can meet Class A requirements for low-level waste, could you see that waste being grouted in this facility?
Yeah, no, this is only to support the effort for transuranic waste. And so we would, right now, it would only be treating any containers that drop out of that transuranic waste. No, it doesn't meet those three criteria, they become low-level mixed waste, and that's would be the waste we'd be treating.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the room have a question? Okay, jump back to our virtual audience.
Yeah, our James Bearsy had another question. This one is looking for clarification. So he asks, did I understand that DOE will provide tribal consultation on the PMR only upon request to the DOE tribal liaison? If so, would DOE consider or allow consultation to be prior to submittal of the PMR and occur based on advanced review by tribes of a draft of the PMR rather than the NOI?
Yeah, so I would probably just refer you back to contacting Kim Ballinger. Again, we have, I know, a series of frequent meetings with the tribal nations, and again, I know this has been discussed. But again, you'd have to contact Kim Ballinger and she can get back to you.
Can we bring that contact slide up again? All right, anyone else in the queue?
No other first questions.
Jerry, you want to go to question number 3?
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate this. And I don't mind at all you breaking this into letting people ask first, second questions before you came back to me. So I appreciate this. My third question has to do with when I looked at the alternative analysis. This almost want to say, is a question as much for ecology here. But the scoring of the alternatives includes a hope that the Energy Department would be able to continue to illegally store waste outdoors until waste is processed in the name of saving $3 million. And that's at page 3-10. And I'd like to hear the agencies respond to whether or not you believe that you don't need any environmental review or health and safety review under NEPA and SEPA if for a proposal that would allow you to continue to store waste outdoors instead of moving it as required by enforcement and orders and agreements under regulations that bar the storage of mixed waste, especially these wastes, outdoors. And given the fact that some of the outdoor waste containers have released into the environment already in the past. So I'd like to hear an explanation for why, in the name of saving $3 million, the Energy Department would propose to extend storage outdoors, which is not legal, and what ecology's view is of granting that, and why there isn't any review of this for environmental impacts.
Yes, this is Eddie Holberg with Department of Ecology. So I want to note, and I think it was mentioned during the presentation, that Department of Energy is on track per their milestones to clear out outside storage area A and B. So there will be no ongoing storage of waste in those locations moving forward. And we will be moving forward with closure of outside storage A under Rev 8C.
And I'll have to go back and look to see what the alternative elements said, but there is no plans. We have no plan to continue storing waste outside, right? We are, as mentioned, we are working to ensure all outside storage is, all waste that's currently in outside storage is moved into one of the buildings at CWC.
So Gary, you should clarify that. That's not correct.
So,
That's Deborah Alexander with the Department of Ecology. DOE is authorized to store some waste outside at operating dangerous waste management units that are in compliance with our regulations. We are clearing out the unauthorized storage areas, which Jerry mentioned. They are, as Eddie said, on track. And all the other units that still will have outdoor storage are part of the permitting process for revision 9A. And we have worked extensively with the Department of Energy and its contractors to ensure that those outdoor storage areas and permitted units meet our requirements under the regulations. Thank you.
All right, thank you for those responses. Let me go back to the room. Tommy, another question?
Thank you for this luxurious question and answer session. Mia's questions made me think of something, and this, let me know if this is out of scope, but is there any vision for this facility to be able to handle the transuranic tank waste? Before it WIC changes their permit and allows it to come there.
Right now, there is no plans to handle anything.
It's for solid waste.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else in the room? Anyone in the queue?
I don't have anyone in the chat and I don't see any new hands raised. So I think we've exhausted questions from online.
All right, so we can go to Anita.
I just wanted to clarify, when you talk about on-site disposal of the, I believe the mixed low level waste, is that going to ERDIF or IDF,
Um,
or does it depend?
Right now, it'll either go to, the mixed waste or, sorry, the low level sterile grounds, trench 31, 34, or IDF.
Okay.
Okay, about 10 minutes left. We want to exhaust all our time here. Again, it's early in the process, as we've mentioned, so we may be back in this very facility in a few months here talking about the contact handled waste facility again, so. But we, do have a little time left if we're gonna continue this conversation. And if there are no other questions, you can get back to this lovely evening. And thank you again for joining us tonight. Day 2 of this public meeting. Have a great evening. Thanks. I do want to mention real quick before we sign off here, for folks online, I think we're posting a link to a survey. And we have hard copies here of the survey. So if you wouldn't mind filling those out, letting us know how we did. And you can, oh, look at that, we got a QR code too, so getting fancy. So thank you again. Fill out the survey and we will talk to you more about this facility down the road. Good night.